The first time Hampton introduced this homeless ordinance, the public needed to hear one question. Are we solving homelessness? Or are we just pushing people out of sight? This was not just a debate about camping. This was a debate about poverty, housing, dignity, and whether hardship should be written into law. I oppose this ordinance because sleep is not a crime. Poverty is not a crime. And when a city tells people where they cannot sleep, where they cannot rest, and where they cannot keep their belongings without guaranteeing real shelter, real services, and real alternatives, that is not a solution. That is displacement. In this public comment, I laid out the data. I laid out the danger. And I laid out the human cost. Hampton has working families struggling to survive, people working full-time and still cannot afford rent. And too many residents are one missed paycheck away, one medical bill, or one emergency away from being outside themselves. So before we lead with penalties, we need to ask better questions. Are we protecting the public, or are we punishing people for being poor? This is where the conversation started. Watch the full public comment.
Next speaker is Aaron Weaver.
Aaron Weaver. I'm here to speak in opposition of the proposed ordinance concerning public camping and storage. I understand the ordinance does not explicitly target homelessness. However, its structure, enforcement, and real-world impact disproportionately affect unhoused individuals. That is not speculation. That is supported by the city's own data. If there is data showing that the majority of encampments are unrelated to poverty and housing insecurity, I welcome that information because all the evidence we've seen up to this point shows the other way around. At its core, this ordinance attempts to criminalize the visible symptoms of poverty rather than address the root causes: housing, instability, low wages, and fragmented social safety net, which we see every day. This is policy theater that punishes suffering instead of solving problems. Meanwhile, 44% of working Hampton households are struggling to meet basic needs. The work session, the ALICE population, those who are employed but still can't afford to live, makes up over 30% of our city. And there is not a single census tract in Hampton that where a full-time minimum wage worker can rent and affordably without spending more than half of their income. The ordinance makes it unlawful to camp and lay or sleep on or store items of public property. It is described as a way to set community norms, but with no guaranteed shelter access, no codified requirement to ensure resources are actionable and the norm. We are creating what is one displacement, not dignity. The current language of the ordinance leaves significant discretion in the hands of individual officers. While I appreciate the chief's commitment to providing training and guidance, it's still not policy. It's practice, and without specific codified process to confirm that services are not only offered but available, this becomes a system based on interpretation, not assurance. This doesn't criminalize criminal activity, it criminalizes absence of alternatives. Let you all see this first. This is anti-homeless spikes. This is a hostile architecture. It's visible, it's intentional, it sends a message: you don't belong here. The ordinance, not as overt, but is structured behind legalese to produce the same result, push the most vulnerable further into the shadows. Justice Sotomayor says sleep is a biological necessity, not a crime. I would criminalize the symptoms of poverty. Doesn't solve poverty. We can do better. We can expand temporary housing through partnerships, pilot guaranteed income ALICE families, centralized resource coordination with real-time access, fund navigators to remove barriers and build trust. Let's not write hardship into law. Let's lead with people, not penalties. Thank you.